Italian teachers. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today. I got a couple of questions sent to me and I am happy to answer them for you. And if you have others, you can always let me know. The first question is, what is a strategy? So the word strategy gets used a lot when talking about reading instruction. Its roots, at least in the United States, are with this body of research known as the Proficient Reader Research. And this was research conducted by people who were trying to figure out what proficient readers do to make sense of a text or to comprehend a text. And they came up with these 7 different terms that they call the comprehension thinking strategies. So they're things like determining importance, monitoring for meaning, synthesizing and retelling, activating prior knowledge, asking questions, inferring, right? You maybe have heard of these before. My thought community was the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project at Teachers College Columbia University in New York City. And at this community, we are a think tank organization and a professional development provider. And we use the terminology a little bit differently. So we talk about those 7 things like inferring and questioning as reading skills. And the strategy is really how you get there. So when I use the word strategy, what I really mean is a how-to. It's like a recipe. It's a series of steps that you follow to accomplish what you're trying to do. So for instance, when my daughter was trying to learn to ride her bike, we used different strategies to try to help her. One strategy was that we took her to the top of a hill. This is not my idea. This was the idea of a neighbor friend of mine. Took her to the top of a grassy hill and lowered the bike seat and then pushed her down so she could feel the balance. And that didn't work very well. And then another strategy we tried was that I held onto the back of the seat and I ran alongside of her as she practiced and let go when she got the balance and she felt like she had it. So those are different strategies or different how-tos, but the how-to gets us to the skill of being able to balance and ride a bike without assistance. And what ended up happening with these bike strategies is she ended up getting a bigger bike when she turned 8 years old. And this bigger bike was such a big change from the smaller bike that she'd used that we had to use the strategy again. So when there's a new difficulty or new challenge, sometimes you need to bring a strategy back out, even when in the past it has sort of faded into the background and become automatic. So while Lola could ride her bike that she had when she was 6 and 7 years old, no problem, didn't need to think about the strategy. When she got to the bigger bike, now I had to hold onto the back again, run alongside of her, and let go when she felt her balance was solid. So strategies are like this. They're how-tos. We use them when we need them. When we don't need them, they fade into the background. We don't want to teach kids too many strategies because it kind of bogs down their attention and their concentration. Instead, we want to think about what's the skill or what's the goal, what are we working toward, and then offer one strategy at a time over time so that they're able to practice and have the how-tos they need to be able to do it. The second question I got is, what is a mini lesson? So a mini lesson is a way to bring a strategy to life in the classroom. The strategy itself, a series of steps, needs to be often taught, demonstrated, explained, and a mini lesson is a time to do that. So when I use the term mini lesson, I mean a whole class lesson that's going to be short, usually 5 to 7 minutes long. And in that mini lesson, I usually try to do 4 things. I start off, my first thing I do is I tell the kids why I've gathered them together and kind of the big objective for the day. Second, I tell them the strategy and I model it. Maybe I'll take out a book, I'll read a little bit, I'll show them how I'm using the strategy. I'll voice over as I practice so that they can see not just proficient reading, an example of proficient reading, but see how I'm doing it. And then third, I'll get them to try it. So I might have another selection of text prepared and I'll set them up to give it a try, or I might have them turn and talk with a partner and practice the strategy. And then fourth and finally, I'll repeat what the strategy is and I'll send them off to their independent work. You could also follow that same procedure, but with a small group, and I call that a strategy lesson. And so a strategy lesson, I pull 2 or 3 or 4 kids together who need the same strategy. And same thing, I tell them why I brought them together. I'll give them a quick demo or an explanation. The big part here is that I get them to practice, and while they're practicing, I'll usually coach each one individually and give them feedback. And then I pull them back together, fourth part, repeat the strategy, and send them off again. So this mini lesson, when I use the word mini lesson, I usually mean a whole class lesson, short, 5 to 7 minutes. Strategy lesson is a small group, again, 5 to 7 minutes or so. And then, of course, you can also teach strategies in conferences, so one-on-one with a student. So you notice a student needs something, you could explain the strategy, give the steps of the strategy. As they practice, you're beside them, giving them feedback and coaching. And at the end, repeat what you worked on and send them back. So it's really these strategies are the content, and you can work with kids in whole class, in small group, or one-on-one to support them. I hope that helped. Take care, everybody. Ciao, right?